lads. Bell's coming down. Here we go. Coming. High wheel. Building to tack here.
Nice. It's been over 2 months since this.
The start of a brand new sailing adventure, SailGP.
Lessons of the past have already been learned.
Not on day one, boys.
Neither past failure nor triumph mean a thing.
The colours of this inaugural SailGP in Sydney are green and gold.
Pretty cool, eh? Never seen this in Sydney before.
The next race is all that matters.
Here we go, boys.
A different kind of test.
We're good, we're good.
This isn't the harbor. This is the bay. Bigger winds,
Gonna be ugly.
bigger swell, bigger rocks.
Still plenty to play for here, boys.
Hell, we've even got bigger fish. These are all waters.
The world's best
Welcome to San
sailors
Francisco.
in the world's fastest boat.
Welcome to
This is
SailGP.
SailGP. Welcome to the iconic sailing location of San Francisco Bay, where we've got a packed schedule of action this weekend, and I've got a crack team helping me pick apart the action. Here in the studio, we've got the double Olympic bronze medalist, Charlie McKee. Charlie, I know you're excited about this.
Yeah, how could you not be, Ed? The wind is in, the boats are going to be up on the foils and fully ripping. We're in for a treat today.
And then out on the water, we've got Mike Martin, one of the hidden gems of American sailing. What are conditions like out there, Mike?
It's classic San Francisco out here. The morning clouds are breaking up and the sun's coming out. We've got moderate breeze that's starting to build to proper conditions. It looks like these boats are really going to be able to, go full throttle today.
Thank you, Mike. We'll be coming back to you throughout the racing for your perspective on things down there. So let's take a look at the standings. This is the second event of the 2019 championship. So we can take a look at the standings after the first event in Sydney. Australia took 5 of the 6 races on offer, and that means they are 3 points clear of Japan, Great Britain, China, France, and the United States with a bit of work to do. Now, just 2 minutes away from the start of the first of 3 races today, and the boats are prowling around the outside of the start area. And if practice is anything to go by, we know that both the sailors and these incredible F50 boats are going to be pushed to their absolute limits.
Smash it, lads.
Super windy, big waves.
Yeah, there's definitely times where you're like, holy sh**.
Have a little bit of pressure.
We were ripping. We were hauling ass.
Go, go, go.
Keep the tack here.
Fast and loose, that's for sure. Bloody scary, to be honest.
We had some loose moments.
We're looking to just chip away at those top teams.
Hands down, it's going to be wild.
It makes it just racing.
That is the scariest moment I've ever had in the F50.
Textbook day here in San Francisco. The cloud is burning off, the land is getting hot, the breeze is blowing in from under the bridge, and that is gonna get stronger and stronger as the day goes on. But San Francisco has everything. It also has current, and in this first race, the current strong out to sea and less along the shore. Lots for the sailors to think about.
So, welcome to SailGP San Francisco for race number 1. The wind is building and so is the expectation. I am joined by double Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robertson. Shirley, welcome.
Jodie, I mean, the fastest race boats on the planet and one of the most relentless places to go sailboat racing. They've been teasing us all week in training. I can't wait to see them go into battle.
Well, we have 33 seconds and counting before we get to see it. All the talk, all the chatter, and we are about to go. The training has been pretty exciting. Let's hope the racing can do the same.
Well, we've seen Nathan Outridge dominate these starts in that first leg. Let's see if he can do it once more.
It's very interesting. Japan is way back on the line compared to the other boats. We've got Tom Slingsby in the Australian boat just holding everyone up. Nathan Outridge and Team Japan might get a whole shot here. He's the lowest boat, and it looks like we're going to have an all-clear start, and they are smoking 31 knots just off the start, and Team Japan gets it straight off the bat.
beautiful start by the Japanese, absolutely at top speed by the time they hit that line, and the inside track as well for that all-important Mark 1.
Yeah, and then you've got Australia there. They've had a few issues with their foil setups and whatnot. We've got Team Japan now trying to push everybody up. Team Australia's getting very close to Great Britain here. This is 33 knots and these boats are about 2 metres apart, screaming into the first mark. This is game on. I haven't seen it this close in practice, that's for sure. Have a go at 41 knots of boat speed coming in to mark number 1, and it's all about Team Japan. Great Britain right in behind them, Australia in behind Great Britain. So, what a start, Shirley. Bring it on.
What a start. I mean, the boundary right by the land there. So a long way to go till they hit that, and Nathan Outridge just slowly extending on the boats around him.
And we see there, Great Britain have caught the penalty, so they have to slow down relative one boat length to the next boat. So what basically that means is they're going to let Australia come through, and they've got to slow down by one boat length relative to Australia. So they've still got the penalty. It's very costly for them. Australia's jived off early. So is Nathan Outridge in Team Japan on their way down to the bottom mark for the first time.
Well, they're making it look easy. I mean, we've seen the Japanese being really low and really fast on this downwind leg. They've had an extra gear.
Oh, they certainly have got that. And Team Great Britain still haven't washed their penalty off. So whatever it was, it has cost them massive. So it's Japan leading by Australia. Interesting to note, Rome Kirby and the Team USA jive very early. They want to get out into the middle of the bay. Is that a tide thing, Shirley?
Oh, I'm not sure. I mean, one of the boats that's made the most improvement since Sydney has been the British, and we see them great speed here. They're really pulling into the Australians, and they're definitely a force to be reckoned with here in San Francisco Bay.
It looks like that early jive for Team USA is going to be very costly, because the others who went way over to the bay side have basically one jive and into this bottom mark. And as you can see now, Team Japan already with a 120 odd metre lead. There's a bit of yelling and screaming going off on the boats, which you can probably hear on the onboard comms. And Team Australia have gone into second. This is what all the yelling's about. Team China and Team France coming in nice and tight. Team France just got inside mark there. Phil Robertson had to bail out. He had nowhere to go.
It's tight in the middle of the pack, isn't it? You know, one mistake, you lose so much speed. Look at the British down to 20 knots, the Chinese 16. That's tough.
It is very tough. Team USA definitely copped a bit of a hide, jiving early and getting out into the middle of the bay. They're coming into that bottom mark last. We've got a nice shot there of Australia setting up for attack. Coming across the bay, Tommy, Slingsby and co want to get back into that shore. It must be a tide thing. They must think they're getting too much of a tidal influence being out too far wide.
You can see the water's pretty flat. The tide is coming down the screen and it's much less inshore. And we heard the teams talk in their pre-race strategy about what to do, and they like to go in there. They talked about tacking along that shore, and Nathan Outridge covering the fleet and going exactly where he wants to go.
He's got Team Australia and Team France over off his hip there, but Nathan is coming in towards the shore. They are currently doing around about 38 knots of boat speed in 14 knots of wind speed. So these things are unbelievably efficient, how quick they can go in little air, Shirley.
They've gone out today with the small boards because we're expecting much more breeze as the day progresses. So tough to do a foiling tack. We'll see them touch and go. But, you know, crucial, if you get those touch tacks wrong, you know, you lose so much boat speed.
And Team Japan just going in right onto the shore, into the boundary there and tacking. A very close cross here between Australia and Great Britain, but Australia have just snuck over the front. We've seen one of those crosses yesterday in the practice race, which could have ended up very bad, but it didn't in this stage. Japan didn't come off that shore real well, and look at the cross here with Team Australia, just taking his stern. So Tommy's made some big gains from that right-hand side, and Nathan's lost a little bit coming in off that left.
Jodie, I think it's really light along that shore. So if you don't do a great tack, you're in much less pressure, and it's sort of double the penalty.
Yeah, and we know with the boat speeds that these guys do, if you just touch down once, it just crucifies you. So it's all about being clean. You have to be clean on every manoeuvre, every little tweak you do. Great Britain have done well, considering they had copped that penalty. They're really back in it. The graphic showing here that they're actually leading, because Australia are over off the left-hand side. It looks like they might have a bit of an issue because they're parked up on that seaside shore. So they could have a technical problem here, Australia.
Well,
Great.
definitely the prize, Jodie, for the most improved since the first event in Sydney goes to the British. There's been loads of technical modifications, which has meant the whole system of flying the boat has been improved and upgraded. And these guys, they worked on the simulator before they even came here. They look a lot more comfortable than they did in Sydney, a lot more confident as well.
I think that's the key. Confidence is the key, and they're that confident. I think they're leading this race now. Team Great Britain have just gone in front of Team Japan. We've got the issue with Australia over on the city side. I'm not sure whether, no, they haven't got themselves back going against it. Well, they're up and going now. So whatever their little technical issue was, they've got it sorted out. So this will be the cross between Team Great Britain and Team Australia to see who could possibly be leading this race. And it might be Australia. They've got looks like they've got an absolutely glamour of a left-hand shift coming off San Francisco.
I mean, you can see it coming down off the St. Francis Yacht Club there. More pressure, darker spot on the water, and, you know, less current inshore. The Aussies have done well to get back into this.
They have, and Dylan's just had to put the bow down there just to take a little bit of an evasive action. I don't think I've seen a flag go up. Yes, there is a flag onto Team Australia, so they've got a penalty. Dylan Fletcher and co on Team Great Britain. Done a nice job there in avoiding. Here we go on the onboard, on the replay. You see Team Great Britain just have to come around the back of Australia, and that's why Australia have copped their penalty. So they've got to take their medicine, and that's going to be quite costly.
The British, Jodie, right-of-way boat. They had all the rights. The wind was coming from the right-hand side, which means that the Aussies had to give way.
I cannot believe the change-up in this race from the bottom mark where Dylan Fletcher and the Team Great Britain boys were back in the pack because of that penalty. Next top mark, they're leading by at least 100 metres.
You know, and now you get ahead, you can make all the right decisions. You know, they chose the right-hand mark looking upwind. They've gone out into more pressure and more current.
Another close cross here between the two on-water rivals in Australia and Japan. Japan just taking the stern there of Australia, splitting top marks though. Team Australia is going to go into the shore. Nathan Outridge and Team Japan want to get out into the bay. This is where the currents come in. This is where the setup for less jives and all the less manoeuvres. Less manoeuvres means less issues potentially that could happen. Team France coming in fifth place, with the USA still coming in sixth place. So it's not looking too good for Rome and his crew in the first race. They would have had their bit between their teeth. Team China, still coming upwind. So Rome's in fifth, Team China in sixth. We're looking now at Team Great Britain, who are smoking downhill 37 knots. Have a look at the spray coming out. And if you watch closely on these boats, you've got the flight controller in the middle. He's basically keeping the boat nice and level. The higher they go, the faster they go, but the more risk they've got of tripping over. So it's the guy in the flight controller's job to just get that balance right. You see Dylan Fletcher there. He had his hands on the wheels. He wasn't adjusting the trim at all. But Team Great Britain at this stage, 250 odd metres ahead of Australia, who are coming downhill very, very fast, with Team Japan chasing them as well. Looks like Australia are going to go through a jibe here, sitting it down a little bit. They just need to make sure this is a good jibe, because there's going to be a cross here with Team Japan. And we're going to go, they're going to keep holding off. They're happy to go right across. Team Japan and going over towards the city side. Looks like Nathan's going to, and Team Japan are going to come into a nice bit of pressure there. Great shot there of Team France. Billy Besson, he's going to have his bit between his teeth as well, because they haven't done too well in practice. But knowing what he likes to do, he loves to win, and he'll be wanting to get in. Team Great Britain sat it down at the bottom mark. Will that be costly, Shirley?
They look slow. I mean, they pulled out a massive, impressive.
Here's what happened to Team Great Britain. They went up, and you're watching. They overreact. So the boat goes up. They're flying way too high. The rudders ventilate. Leeward rudder goes down. Bang! The nose goes in the water. Everyone gets a drink. That's not fast.
And that water is cold, but they still. Well, they just need to get going. They've completely
stopped, completely stopped, which has opened the door right up for that man and that boat. Team Japan, who won the 3 practice races yesterday. Great Britain had the biggest lead possible. All they had to do was not make a mistake, and the pressure has obviously got to them. Speaking of pressure, Team Japan didn't have a very good mark rounding, with Team Australia coming in at 37 knots. this could change again. This lead, this is on this race. Team Australia are coming at 2 times the boat speed of Team Japan, who are now slowly starting to wind that thing up. So we race to the boundary here between these two. Team Great Britain still haven't got anything done. They've got no beat speed. I'm wondering whether that little touchdown or big touchdown has caused them some issues.
They may well have damaged something. Also, they may well have filled up with water, and it takes a long time to get rumbling again.
So looking on board here now, Dylan Fletcher will be fuming inside that helmet. He had a great lead and just had to get it down. So anyway, they'll wash it off and they'll keep going. The race is still on. We're on the last upwind, and it is Team Japan with Nathan Outridge on the helm, closely followed by his rival on the water, Tommy Slingsby in Team Australia. Team France are back into this race. We haven't seen this before. Normally what we've seen is one boat's just gone and extended. We've got 5 boats all within 200 metres here. This is pretty cool racing.
It's good. I mean, in terms of the tactics as well, Jodie, they like that the left-hand side. I mean, it obviously they felt it really paid on that first speed, and they're, you know, those tacks are costly, but they're putting them in.
There was a very close cross there between Great Britain and France. We're back on board now with Nathan Outridge and Team Japan. He's just having a look around. The beauty of Nathan not having to do the flight control system when it goes to the flight controller is the fact that he can now race the boat, and most of the skippers are adopting that. They can get the head out of the boat, they can look around, they can do a lot more tactically instead of trying to fly the boat. And you can see Team Japan were just about set up for attack. We're on board now with France. They're in it. France are having a good race. They'll be very, very happy with this. Practice wasn't great for them. Team USA just might be giving a little bit of wing wash there, which might be slowing them down.
I mean, Jodie, looking at the data from practice, the 2 boats that have been flying the highest, 20 centimetres higher than everyone else, has been the Aussies that we're looking at now and the Japanese. If you're brave enough to fly high, you are going to go so much faster. Massive reduction in drag.
And to see how tight the racing still is on the last upwind. Team France just had to go around the back of Team Australia there. Team Japan still on their way up, but it looks like from our point here that they're not going to make the top mark. They still have to do at least 1 more tack. Maybe there will be 2 more tacks. They'll have to tack around the top mark. Team Australia coming at them hard. Here's a nice little on board here of the Team USA just going over the top of Team France, and then France having to lose the back of Team Australia. So the racing, we've been about 10, 12 minutes into it, and these boys are still full on.
I spoke to Billy Bisson earlier. He said yesterday he did his first foiling tack. So they're making progress.
That's sensational.
You know, he's an amazing sailor, and he loves to go fast. He'll get the hang of this.
And they've got an amazing toy to play with. These F50s are unbelievable to watch, and they are even more unbelievable to be on, I can tell you that. Team Japan now setting up for their tack for the top part of the mark. Current boat speed, 27 knots. Team Australia setting up for theirs as well, getting towards their boundary. Team USA are in 3rd. France are in 5th place on the graphic, so we must have a boat over to our left-hand side. It's still all very, very close. Team Japan setting up now in for their last tack to the mark, and then to scream on into the finish right in front of the Golden Gate Yacht Club, where the crowd are, and they will have an absolutely unbelievable view of this finish line.
I mean, Nathan's been saying that they've really felt at home here in this. You know, they've bedded in their boat. They're ready to go.
Have a look at this, really how tight it is still for the miners. Japan now, without some sort of failure, they got this one in the bag, but that could be the commentator's curse. They're smoking in towards the finish. Got about another 150 metres to go, and Japan are going to take race number 1 here in San Francisco to form. There it is, Team Japan. Well done to them. Nice job after having a few issues and getting back in the track. We know that thing's got some speed, and we know they've got a pretty cool crew on board. Here's the race for the miners. Team Australia, it looks like they've got into 2nd spot. Nice and tight here for Great Britain, who were leading into the first mark the first time. Into 3rd, USA, and Rome Kirby on the helm into 4th.
The British did well, Jodie, to pull that back, and you know, they'll be upset with themselves, but they made a good comeback there.
Absolutely, so they know they've got speed, and obviously on these boats, speed is king.
A lot of them are from tacking in really light air.
So we're just watching the boats now. All these guys will be getting their breaths back. They'll be waiting for their chase boats to come in and rehydrate, get some food on board.
Well, we just heard Nathan talking about tacking in light airs, and I think, you know, that was the real difference.
So we're going to go now off to a onboard.
Wow, without question, the most intense racing we have seen in SailGP so far. Charlie, breathtaking start. We've seen Nathan Outridge in the practice races building up to this, favouring that bottom end of the line, and it was no different in this race. That is his favoured position.
And no question about it. Again and again, the boat coming off the bottom. If they get it right, they're in command of the race. And he was set up pretty late. It looked like he maybe was a little bit late, but he clearly had more speed crossing the line than everyone else.
What was interesting throughout this race, I thought, one of the things that really created that very close racing and so many lead changes was the fact that the wind hasn't filled in across the whole course yet, has it? We're seeing gusts and people are able to find little pockets and really surge through the race.
San Francisco here, it's still tactics. For you purists out there, it's still sailboat racing. You have to get a good start, you have to go the right way, you have to nail your tacks and jibes. And I think what we saw there was sometimes the boats came in close to shore, they didn't have good wind to foil on the way back out.
And that was what we saw if we start to dig in depth a little bit. That's what we saw with GP, the SailGP team. They came on the right-hand side of the course on that first upwind leg. Both Australia and Japan came close to the sea wall here, and they lost out. Dylan Fletcher took the GB team right up to the mark, and it was a fantastic leg for him.
It's flatter water in here. It's tempting to come in here, but they went right out to the lumpy right side. They found more wind, and they crushed it.
Well, we saw more than 5 knots boat speed there. But then as quickly as they gained that lead on the downwind leg, they squandered it.
Well, we saw what SailGP and these F50s are all about. You're in the lead. In a boat that's easier to sail, you could just coast to victory. But one little mistake, at the bottom of the course, it's windier, it's wavier. They got a little too high on the foils, and look what happens.
Yeah, they squandered that lead, able to claw it back to third position, but they were still, you've got to say, wasted a very, very strong lead there. Mike Martin was out on the course for all of that. Mike, what did you see from out there? It looked like very, very close proximity racing.
Wow, it was super tight racing, super exciting. You know, it looks like France had a great start and Japan led early. You know, this is amazing, all the place changes we saw, and little mistakes really cost a lot. So it was super to watch from the water, and you know, the conditions really sort of piped up for that race. There's still some holes around, but...
Okay, Mike, do you see it getting a lot choppier down at the bottom of the course, the downwind mark? Is that what created problems for Dylan Fletcher and the British SailGP team?
Yeah, it's definitely getting choppy out here, especially down at the bottom of the course. It's pretty smooth at the top, but the further down you get, the choppier it gets.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. We'll come back to you after the second race. Charlie, lots to think about for all of the teams, but definitely Team Japan and Australia dominating again there with boat speed.
Yeah.
So San Francisco Bay delivering conditions perfect for sailing here. Very, very intense racing for the first battle. And Japan coming out in front, 10 points for them on their championship tally, just ahead of Australia. Great Britain clawing their way back into third after that big mistake. Rome Kirby, Billy Besson, Phil Robertson, all finishing within a minute of Japan. some of the tightest racing we've seen. So let's start to pull it apart and find out exactly what went down there. From the start, Nathan Outridge stamped his authority on this race, didn't he, Charlie?
He did. Once again, he fights for the bottom of the line, and he had more speed crossing the line than everyone else. That's the bottom line. It wasn't the getting a little closer to the line, who exactly had the timing right. He was going knots faster than everyone else.
And it was a procession from the first mark down to the downwind mark, but then choices on the upwind leg of this race. The British SailGP team taking the right-hand side of the course, and that paid off for them, didn't it? The boat speed was phenomenal.
It paid off big time. They went far out to the right. There was more wind out there. The boats that came in here towards the flatter water, when they tacked and went back out, they fell into less wind. They couldn't get foiling right away, and it was just a dramatic lead change.
Yeah, so the British team overhauling both Japan and Australia on that leg. And we actually saw a very close cross. We'll come to that later on. But the Australians incurring a penalty because they were on port and the British had right of way on starboard.
It was pretty clear cut that the Brits had to bear away to avoid a collision there. It might have been the Australians who were a little bit surprised because all the way back there, as we discussed earlier, the Brits had more wind. They were going faster, and they came from behind.
Okay, well, you can see the British boat there, just pure speed. They're on 28, 29 knots, way, way faster than both the Japanese and the Australians there. But they came round this upwind mark, and then they flew off downwind. The speeds are reaching 35, 36 knots, Charlie. And as we said, it's starting to get choppy down at the bottom there. They'd extended a lead of over 250 meters. What happened?
So all of a sudden they find themselves in the lead. They're ripping downwind. It is gradually getting bumpier and a little more dicey. And did they get carried away with themselves and let the ride height be a little bit too high? You know, one thing we saw was after they came crashing down, their boat filled up with water. They can't foil again. You saw Chris Draper, the wing trimmer, look back and see, is our lead big enough to hang on here? And no way.
No, and this is the shot of it. So you see the boat start to come up, and then it just nosedives in there, and they've taken on so much water. The hulls will hold up to 5 tons of water, and these boats only weigh 2.5 tons. So the danger of starting to try and foil and power these boats up with that much water, and you're talking a 7.5 ton boat instead of a 2.5 ton boat, and that is when you start to break things. So as we've already seen, conditions out here in the San Francisco Bay, very, very temperamental, difficult to negotiate for these guys, and local knowledge comes at a premium. And one of the skippers who knows these waters best is not actually an American.
This place is full on, sometimes scary, and a place I really loved racing at. So let's give you the inside track to San Francisco. Let's go, Max. So we're here just below Pier 39. We've just come up from Alameda. Bay Bridge is in the background, and on a typical day here in San Francisco, you go from a transition where it's glass, absolutely no wind, to this very distinct line. Massive waves, 20 knots. It's the moment where you have to switch your mind from saying, we're on our way to the racetrack, we're now actually about to go into battle, and it's about to get full on when we get out there.
So it's a clear start, clear start. It is the drag race into this first mark.
This is where the bottom marks are going to be. It always blows from this direction. It's the most exposed part of the bay, and definitely a place that you just want to get in and out of very quickly. Pretty much what San Francisco is renowned for. It's cold, it's windy, it's wavy, and the boats are going to go super fast out here. Very different to Sydney.
It's tough and it's hard and it's unforgiving.
Right, so we're up at the top of the racetrack now. You can see we've got the Golden Gate Bridge in the background. And the funny thing that I find up here is that, you know, remember at the bottom of the track, you're looking up and it looks like, how am I ever going to get home today? And you get up here and you go, actually, it's quite nice. It's 12 knots, it's flat water, and life's good. And it's a racetrack, 4 different conditions, and we're going to have to work out how to manage it as best we can.
It's relentless. The air is dense. The water is cold. This is a place to respect.
So this is the middle of the course. We're on the left-hand side, close to shore. It's super flat water, high speed area of the track.
Absolutely smoking into that mark.
It's also the area for the finishing line. Grandstands are right there. This area is going to be packed full of spectators. We're 50 metres from the beach. You're going to hear the boats whistling by at 50 knots, and it's just going to be fantastic.
One of the best places on the planet to race.
So Nathan Outridge, skipper of the Team Japan there, very, very experienced in this bay. He sailed here all through the America's Cup 2013 campaign, and he knows these waters so well. Throughout practice, Charlie, we've seen Nathan bossing these waters, really enjoying himself, but we've had a couple of really close passes. And these boats aren't little dinghies, are they? They're difficult to manage. Can you put in perspective just how difficult it is to maneuver these boats at this speed?
Well, as we saw from that first race today, the racing is highly tactical, but the speeds they're going, the closing speeds on these crossings are 60 knots. And they have not much time to make the decision of what they want to have happen. And when they get it wrong, the consequences are huge.
Okay, well, let's take a look at it. We had a quick cross yesterday between Japan and Australia in one of the practice races. And you get a glimpse here of just how close it is. On the right-hand side of the picture, you can see Japan approaching as America is setting up. And it's incredibly tight here.
The hard part, they're setting up to tack. Australia's hoping to be inside at this mark and hold on to their lead. But once those two guys go across to tack, the wing trimmer is actually taking the helm out of the hands of the helmsman partway through the turn. And there's just so much going on right then. And then they end up shaving their stern by inches. It's incredible.
Yeah, the closing speeds are key. Well, we're setting up now for the second race. All of the boats again gathering around the start. So it's back to our commentary team, Jody Shields and Shirley Robertson.
For race 2 is as follows. We have 13 degrees, we have 9 knots of breeze, and a nice little chop still on the racetrack. We are back for race number 2. Hello and welcome to SailGP San Francisco. The wind has increased from race number 1 and the action will surely do the same. I am once again joined by 2 times Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robertson. Shirley, welcome.
Oh, it's exciting, Jody, isn't it? As you say, we have more wind for this race and the tide has changed, so we'll have bigger waves. Lots of action.
Lots of action. I don't know whether I can handle any more action. That first race was sensational and the breeze is up, which is only going to be one thing, more and more action. They've got the heavy air or heavier air jibs on and the smaller foils, which they struggled a little bit in that light airs. They've got the right configuration now, 20 knots of wind speed. Let's see what these things can do.
You know, they have to get a good start. You have to cross that line at maximum speed, and the boat that has been doing it so far is the Japanese. Let's see if he can do it once more.
It's interesting that that team you are talking about is way at the very top end of the course. They did this in practice yesterday and it benefited from him. He has pulled the trigger already with 5 seconds to go. Nathan Outridge and Team Japan coming in from the very, very top. Dylan Fletcher in Great Britain on the very bottom end, and we are off and racing. Clear start, clear start. Great Britain had a great start there with Team USA all the way on the top of them as well. It'll be interesting to see whether Japan can roll over the top of this fleet. Looks like on that shot that he might just be struggling to get down over the front of France there. Great Britain with 40 knots of boat speed. Here we go, he's wound it up. Nathan Outridge on Team Japan. Just as we spoke, the final part of this reach has come into play for him, and he is fighting it out with Dylan Fletcher, who's just going to get into the zone first. What a start.
You look at the Japanese, they fly higher than anyone else. They get the best top speeds, and he just seems to be able to deliver when he has to.
Well, here we come all the way in towards the beach or in the city front. This is where it's all going to count. This is where the first jibe can set you up for the rest of the race. Team Great Britain is setting up in now, just getting their guys across, ready to go into the foil jibe, sorry. Team Japan just had to miss the start-finish line there, so that could have been an interesting little issue for them, but it was a great jibe by Team Japan, just coming over the top of Team Great Britain, who also done a nice jibe. In the background there, Team France just putting the bows in the water. That's not fast. But Team Great Britain is smoking on downhill. Japan in second. Looks like we're on board now with a team of Great Britain. Dylan Fletcher just adjusting a couple little knobs there on his steering wheel, so he's just setting himself up for the bottom, Shirley. Problem is he was in this exactly the same position on the race one, and we all know what happened there. So have they learnt from race one?
The British look fast and they look smooth and they look pretty confident. And although, you know, they had a bad manoeuvre in the first race, they're back on it now.
Well, let's see if their coaches have coached them anything or taught them anything between races. And we have got awesome action here with Team Japan just trying to get a little bit over the top of. They might be flying a little bit higher than Great Britain. So it looks like they're not going to make the bottom mark. So it's all about another jibe. Be interesting. Team Australia is a little bit lower in the racetrack. So he could pull out a few positions here between China and USA. Definitely going to go behind China. Great jibe there by Team Great Britain. Absolutely nailed the jibe. So he's in towards the bottom where he was in first place in the first race and he's in first place in the second. So great job there by Team Great Britain.
Nice ley line, nice execution, going the right way.
And we've got Team Japan into second, Team China into third, and a great race here between the old crewmates in Tom Slingsby and Rome Kirby. Australia and USA coming into that bottom mark. Rome give him a nice little bit of space to get in around, because at 40 odd knots you don't want to be bumping boats, that's for sure. Things will not end well.
We saw Dylan Fletcher having a little look over his shoulder. They're coming to get me.
So what's happening here, Dylan's just going to have to go to the boundary. Nathan's sort of trying to trap him off there, but Dylan can get to the boundary and basically call an obstruction area. Nathan will have to tack off first, and Dylan will have clean air to tack right on the boundary. He's just got to get in there. I think you'll see Team Japan tack off very, very soon, and there they go, which has allowed Team Great Britain to go all the way in and take the heat off him a little bit. Team USA was one of the early ones to tack, and Rome Kirby and his crew, a very young crew, but they got that thing wound up today, coming out into the middle of the course. Team Japan look like they've got some nice speed. Australia's got some nice speed. Great Britain's wound up now off the left-hand side.
Well, in the first race, Jodie, we saw lots of holes in pressure along the coast there, but the wind's filled in now, and I think Dylan must have looked upwind and thought, yeah, it's all right.
He looks like he has got a little bit of a left-hand shift because his bows are pointing a lot further up than definitely what Rome Kirby and Team USA were doing on the right-hand side. Rome and the Team USA have just tacked now. Could be an interesting cross here between him and China. We might just try and stay with that a little bit. Looks like USA are going to go over the top of them. So it is status quo. Game on between Great Britain and Japan. Japan's going to come over. Team Australia attacking off the right-hand boundary. Interesting. Most of the boats used the left-hand boundary in the first race. Now they're all coming over to the right.
I think that's current, Jodie. The current has changed on the right-hand side of the course, so they're happier to go out there.
Yeah, they're not going to get as effective. The nice shot here of Team Great Britain throwing it around the tack, and I'm going to call that a foiling tack. That looked pretty cool to me.
I could see air under there.
I could see a lot of air under there. So here we have the on-board of Team Japan, and they are on the chase for those very fast blokes on the Team Great Britain side, and that is a great shot there. Back on board with Team Great Britain now.
It's such a balance, you know, between the driver and the flight controller and the guy trimming the wing, and you've got to get all those three components working together at the right time. And I think that's what we see with Team Japan. It's slick, they make few mistakes.
It looks to me like Team Great Britain might be trying to sail a little bit higher here to wash Team Japan out from running over the top of them, which might open the gate for Team Australia, because they're all going to come over to the boundary and they're all going to set themselves up. Remember, Team Australia, if they're the first to the boundary, they get basically all rights. The other teams have to let them go. And you can see there's been a massive shift to the right over on this left-hand side of the course, as their bows are way up. Team Australia attacking. Team Great Britain still doing a nice job of holding off Team Japan there. Team Japan setting up now for attack to go right on top of Team Australia, and they will not be liking that at all. Team USA coming back out into the middle in 4th spot. He's got some speed going.
They've more pressure on that right-hand side, but you know the American team are doing well. They've had more time training here than anyone else. They were so motivated to raise their game after the 6th position in Sydney, and it's great to see Rome Kirby. He is actually flying his own boat. They chose not to use the new flight controller system, and he's flying it himself.
You can see him there, what Shirley's talking about. He's just twisting that little twist grip on that red steering wheel, and that adjusts the foils going backwards and forwards, and that helps with the flight of the boat. Tacking right on the boundary there with Team USA. That could be interesting. And Team Japan and Team Great Britain still fighting it out for the top of the course. They're setting themselves up now for the lay line. Japan done a beautiful foiling tack there. Lowest they got in the boat speed's about 21 knots through a tack. Some boats don't go 21 knots. These things are unbelievable. And that tack has set himself up to possibly roll straight over the top of Team Great Britain here. Team Great Britain first into the top mark. Done a nice job themselves to get in and around that tack. And off they go on the downhill. Great Britain first, Japan second, USA in 3rd. Team Australia has lost a little bit of time there to Team USA, who had a little bit of a venting issue there just as they're exiting the yellow's mark zone there. Team Australia on their way downhill.
Tom Slingsby has not found his form here in Sydney. He's been complaining about, you know, lack of speed the whole time they've been training and just not showing the class that we saw in Sydney.
And we are on board with a beautiful camera shot now. Team Japan are smoking downhill, as well as Team Great Britain. Nice job there by Team Australia on their drive. So all 4 boats in shot. Great Britain, USA just put the bow down right at the wrong time there. That could open the door for Team Australia to come back and start fighting them for 3rd position. And you can see here they are all full noise down. Look at the spectator boats in the bottom of the course there. They're going to have a great shot of these boats coming at them at 40 knots, Shirley.
How high is Dylan Fletcher's heart rate? I mean, Nathan Outridge is breathing down his neck the whole way around this course.
Nathan Outridge, Tom Slingsby, Rome Kirby. He's got some pretty big names wanting to chew him up on this bottom part of the mark. And look what's happened. That nice little setup there for Team Japan just got over the top and rolled them. But they're still in it. We're not going to write off Team Great Britain by any stretch of the imagination, because it's only one manoeuvre and it can all go completely wrong for the other team. So here they come into the final bottom mark for this race. And it is Team Japan just in front of Team Great Britain. Team Japan setting up now for their jibe. Board goes down. They think they're going to hit the mark there. They've gone early on the lay line according to the graphics on the screen. But these guys know what they're doing, so you've got to back them in.
Downwind, the Japanese are just faster. They ride higher.
And you see Team USA, sorry to cut you there, Shirley, nearly had a big moment. Yeah, you're right, they fly a lot higher. And that, when you fly higher, you go faster. When
20 centimetres higher, Joda. That is equivalent to 10% in boat speed. Massive.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. But when you're 20 centimetres high, you're also 20 centimetres higher or closer to failure for a collapse. So here we go into the bottom mark. Team Australia has got that 3rd position back in front of Team USA. So those guys are having a great fight as well. All 4 boats within about 300 metres of each other, coming up to the top end for the final time. It is Team Japan currently in front, 50 odd metres in front of Great Britain, then Australia, and then Team USA.
Well, they're coming up to the boundary here, and when they get 4 boat lengths away from the boundary, then you can ask for room to obviously avoid it and to tack, and I'm sure that's what's going on.
Team USA and Team Japan doing a simultaneous tack there. Rome likes getting out into the middle of the course nice and early. We've seen that playbook by him for the whole race. So off he goes out to the middle to try to find something in front of what Team Australia don't get, because they're having a nice little race between themselves. You see there the grinders just grinding away on Team USA to keep that winch that controls the big wing. The wingman goes in and out with his winch rope. and the grinders just have to keep grinding that thing in all day. They get pretty tired at the end of it, that's for sure.
It's old school load grinding, not like we saw in the last America's Cup where they were creating energy. This is proper, you know, really hard turning those handles. I mean, massive improvements by all the team. I can't quite believe how much they've improved since the first event back in Sydney.
And Team USA have lost a little bit of ground there, on Team Australia. They've come around about 2 boat lengths into the bottom mark, but it looks like they're about 100 metres different. So Team Australia's done quite well there. Team Japan setting up now for attack, throws it around, bow goes in, everyone gets absolutely just washed off the boat by the spray. It's incredible how hard that water hits you when you're travelling at 30 knots. It just stings you in the face, it's ridiculous. So they're all going back over to the left-hand side of the course. They're still about halfway up this work. There's still a little bit of work to go. Team Great Britain at this stage are happy to get out in the middle. Maybe they're going to set themselves for what they call one and in, so they go over, one tack up to the top mark. Will that be the big game changer? We'll soon see. Setting up here is Team Great Britain. In through the tack. A little bit of bow down, but when they look upwind, you can see that flying machine of Team Japan and also Team Australia absolutely smoking in towards the crowd in front of the great yacht clubs. Australia turning now into their tack. We'll watch Tommy Slingsby run across, gain control back of his boat. Foil comes up, and off they go, back on the hunt to try and get into the lead of this race.
They found a bit of speed from somewhere. In Sydney, remember, he had a terrible first race, got angry, won the event. I think that may well have happened here.
And his off-water mate and his on-water rival is right in front of him, and they are about to come into the final mark. It's all about this tack. They need to get the tack right. And both boats have gone through the tack. Look pretty fast. No real issues. Australia a little bit down on their boat speed, which might have opened the door for Team Japan, who are 30 knots, just to put a bit of distance in them. And they are flying now in towards the finish of race number 2 for yet another win to Team Japan. This team is absolutely on fire. There it is, Team Japan, race 2 winner. Unbelievable.
Jodie, they seem to have all the answers. They have the confidence to push their boat all the way around that course. They've got speed to burn.
And we've got Australia coming into second. Tommy would be happy that he got speed to get back into the race, but he'd be filthy that Nathan beat him. Nice little finish here between USA and Great Britain. USA into third, just going over the line now. And Team Great Britain, who led for a fair bit of that race, back to fourth. Wow, take a breath. How fast are these boats going? These races are unbelievably quick.
Well, the wind's beginning to pump, Jodie. We've got 20 knots of breeze over most of the course, and a tide creating waves, which makes flying really difficult.
And we are just watching Team China coming up to the final mark now, just in front of France. These guys have been left behind a bit on this in this race. They'll definitely Team China were up and in it in the first race, but those top 4, they're gone this time.
Phil Robertson had a massive crash and a lot of damage midway through last week. You know, his boat was out of the game for 2 days. He's behind on training. I think he got a scare, actually, Jodie. So he's sort of building his confidence of his team again, and I think we see that here in the racing.
And there we have Team France coming over to take the final spot in race 2 here in San Francisco.
Get some tape out of that winch on the other side, just put it around the soft shackle on the jib sheet, you know.
We are just...
Hey, a little Velcro on the clue shackle would be pretty nice upgrade. Yeah, we're going to tape it, but it's be nice little... That's nice, man.
Yet another intense race here at the San Francisco SailGP, second event of the championship, first day of racing here, and it's already delivering, Charlie. We've seen two of the most exciting races that we've ever witnessed in these boats, and the start, again, was breathtaking.
I can't believe how close the racing is, Ed. It's unbelievable.
You actually said it. We've been sat here watching, and you said that it's like watching dinghy racing in big, fast boats.
Yeah, it's the decisions they have to make, how close the racing is, how costly the mistakes are. It's awesome.
Well, you look at the whole race, and Nathan Outteridge is again, he's claiming his own real estate on the line, isn't he? We've seen him go bottom of the line first race, and then everyone else follows him to the bottom, and he takes the top of the line.
I think in the practice racing leading up to it, in the first race here at SailGP, we've seen him favor the bottom of the line. I think the other teams are feeling like they're making it too easy for him. They pushed a little harder. What does he do? He shifts over to the top of the line, does the same thing from the top of the line, hangs back, gets the most speed, starts with the most speed.
But he was matched by Great Britain in that drag race down to the first mark.
Look, it has to be said that Great Britain sailed a fantastic first two-thirds of the race there. And then at the end of the race, the USA comes back and sails a great end of the race. So those teams are starting to put pressure on the big boys. They're looking in their rearview mirror. They're feeling the heat.
There was a sense, though, wasn't there, that Outteridge is the daddy. He was just sat just on that hind quarter of Dylan Fletcher throughout the race, just letting him know that he was there, letting him know that one mistake and he'd be on him.
For GBR to hold him off for that entire beat, and they held him off by having the inside position, keeping him on what we call their lee bow there, and not letting him put his bow down and get up to speed. They did a beautiful job of that. But what does he do? He's patient. He sits there right behind him for the whole leg. He gets on the downwind, and then he's just that tiny bit faster. And as we've seen again and again and again, once he passes you and gets in front of you, tends to be over. Okay, let's take a look further back down the pack then. One of the people that I'm really, really fascinated by is Tom Slingsby. 5th place on at the end of the first downwind leg, and he's reeled it back into second. He has phenomenal boat speed at his disposal, doesn't he? I think they have the ability to get the boat locked in, and just everyone, they've sailed together a long time. The back three are doing their job. They get it locked in, but they're still just making a few too many mistakes in positioning to challenge Nathan for the leader. Okay, we can go out and have a quick chat with Mike Martin on the water. Mike, it feels like the wind's filling in a little bit. Is that what's actually happening out there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely getting more solid through the whole course. We're probably getting puffs in the mid to upper teens now, and it's really letting these boats go full throttle.
What about the proximity of the racing? Because it looks close on camera. Down there on the water, it must be even closer.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, there's place changes every leg. The lead often, changes, and also the second, third, fourth is just super tight. Great Britain was leading that race, and they wound up fourth. So it's the most exciting racing I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, a man with that level of experience of Mike Martin, it's going to be close. So the boat's just resting in the shallows by the seawall here in San Francisco as they prepare for the third and final race today. And what a spectacle it has been so far. Two of the most intense races we've seen in the F50s to date. Let's take a look at the standings after that second race. A convincing lead again for Japan. They sit on 65 now, just 1 point behind Australia. There was a 3-point gap after the first event, but they've reeled that in. Great Britain starting to close that gap with some great performances, and America moving from 6th position up into 4th. And Charlie, that's a big indicator of how much progress the United States team under the helmsmanship of Rome Kirby have made between the Sydney event and the event here in San Francisco?
Look, that team of young Americans are all fantastic sailors, but normally you would look, especially at the back three, and say it takes a long time to get your coordination down and to get in sync because you have so little time to communicate. The fact that here we are just in the second event of the season and they're already knocking on the door of the leaders, it says a lot.
Well, another team that we've seen progressing massively are Great Britain. We're going to take a look at the start of that race now. And this was beautiful, wasn't it? Nathan Outridge again finding his own real estate, this time at the top of the line. But Dylan Fletcher's boat speed for the British team was just phenomenal.
The way that I look at that is the GBR had a great first race going. It looked like they were going to win. They had a disastrous nosedive, filled up with water, went from the front right to the back. Did that shake their confidence and they say, okay, let's take it easy here in the second race? No, they went and nailed the bottom end of the line there and held off Nathan for the first half of the race. So, you know, hats off to them for that.
The bear away round the first mark, you can see 45 knots of speed. These boats are absolutely motoring. That's 60 miles an hour, more than 90 kilometers an hour. But this angle shows us just how much pressure Nathan Outridge in the Japan boat is putting on Dylan Fletcher.
For those people who thought that, oh, maybe catamarans, they don't maneuver very well and it's not going to be very tactical, look at these two races. Those boats were locked together for the entire first half of this race.
Well, we've talked about the amount of pressure that Nathan Outridge is putting on Dylan Fletcher here, and you see this jibe as they're coming down. Dylan Fletcher jibed on command there, and it was a foiling jibe, but just the sheer boat speed from Nathan Outridge in the Japan boat, and he goes past.
Nathan's behind. He has slightly more speed. He goes to make his turn. The GBR, they can either try to match it on command. They can't wait 2 or 3 seconds. They either have to go right then or they have to let him go, and it leads to a big split. They decide to match it. They pull it off beautifully, but just the relentless speed, top-end consistency of the Japanese just rolls them over the top.
Well, you talk about that speed. There's one thing that I noticed here that I absolutely love. We can take a look at it. All the other skippers are wearing their helmets, their buoyancy aids. Nathan Outridge is wearing ski goggles. He's going so fast. He looks like he's about to be shot out of a cannon there. Phenomenal racing from Nathan Outridge, and he's going so quick he needs the ski goggles. Now, one of the teams that's also in development are some of the most experienced NACRA 17. They're one of the dinghy foiling catamaran classes, and they're the French team, Marie Rio and Billy Besson. They've done a phenomenal job getting used to these boats, and they're coming on very, very quickly.
Only the first race? You want only the first race?
Or only the finish?
On n'a pas passé la porte, hein?
Bah non.
Non, on n'est pas passé.
Putain, on n'est pas marqué là. We were, really good, in a really good position on the reaching.
We make a great start.
Yeah, we catch, I think, a good puff. We did good maneuvers and good first downwind. But always you have to pass the gate, so it was a big mistake. San Francisco, it's amazing.
The weather condition is really different. We was clearly 6 to 12 knots in Sydney, and each day here we have 20 knots, sometimes choppy, sometimes it was a scary situation, but it's all right.
Because there is lots of wind in the face, in the mic, and sometimes you can't hear everything, so we try to have a good communication on board.
Allez, pareil à virer? Quand tu veux.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. It's the safety and the pushing the boat on the limit. And that's why it's really difficult, because sometimes you want to push the boat on the limit, and sometimes you
very fast but safe.
Are you very fast?
We'll take each race after each race and each day after each day, and we will see at the end of the event we can be outsider. We can say that.
We can say that, and we are outsider, and we can learn with a happy face and make a great job with that.
That paints a very good picture about just how hard it is to adjust to these phenomenal boats. They are the world's fastest class of racing boat. They're capable of 50 knots. We've come within 0.2 of a knot of reaching that hallowed figure. It's been classed as the speed of sound for sailing 50 knots, and with that come great risks, don't there, Charlie? We've seen Tim Leperle on the French boat coming off injured after the first race with, I think he'd hurt his legs, but there's phenomenal G-forces involved when these boats turn, aren't there?
For those guys running across the boat as they're going into the turn, it's extremely difficult. And you would think, oh, can we just eat? We're going so fast, we can smoothly cruise through this turn. But they need to keep the boats on the foils. They need to get the pressure loaded up, going the other way quickly. So the drivers are just throwing those boats around, and the crews just have to get themselves to the other side and into that windward cockpit.
Well, if you actually watch the boats, you can see them leaning into the turns. Time now to go back onto the water for the third race with your commentary team, Shirley and Jody.
And the weather conditions for race 3 is as follows. We have 16 knots of building breeze. We have nearly a meter's worth of chop and 13 degrees of air temperature for what should be a great race. So welcome to SailGP San Francisco for race number 3. If the first 2 races are anything to go by, this one is going to be epic. I'm once again joined by double Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robertson. Shirley, here we go again.
It's getting tougher and tougher for them as well. The wind is increasing, and so is the sea state. And you imagine you're trying to fly those boats above the water and there's waves. It's not easy. Can anyone stop this man? He started exactly as he wanted to, at top speed, where he wanted to on the line. Who is going to challenge him?
And between races, we're lucky enough to hear some on board, and Team Australia were the ones that were saying, why is nobody stopping Team Japan? Why are they getting such an easy run into the start line? And they've done it again. Team Japan well back on the box to the rest of the fleet. The rest of the fleet are very extended. 13 seconds to go. These guys need to wind these things up. And that's exactly what Team Japan are doing. Team France this time at the top of the course. Team Australia, Tommy Slingsby, nailed every start in Sydney. He hasn't had his own way.
One man that has had their own ways. Nathan Outridge on Team Japan started in the right spot with the maximum speed.
And off they go again for the third and final race here today in beautiful San Francisco. And have a look at that shot. San Francisco, Golden Gate Bridge in the background. 6 F-50s pumping over to this first mark at over 35 knots. This is insane.
But Jody, he's not having it all his own way. Look at the British team
China
just edging ahead.
Just had a big moment there. China just windward hull went in the water. That's pretty scary at 40 knots with all these boats around you. But he got the whole shot again. Team Japan, then it's Great Britain, Team China, Team Australia, USA, and the French are probably coming in last position at this stage.
Yeah, got it.
All 6 boats flying across towards the shore here in San Francisco. Team USA first to bail out and jibe. Team China's following them. Who will blink first? Looks like Australia is going to jibe. This start-finish mark has got in front of Team France. So that you don't want to hit that at 45 knots, I tell you. That would not be fun at all. Setting up now, the board is going in for Team China to do, Team Japan to do their jibe. Team Great Britain right in on the boundary. Nice jibe by both boats. Seems like these pair have got a little bit of cranky pills between them. They've been racing each other all day, which is good to see. Great Britain, a couple of old 49er foes coming back out and racing these F50 machines. So they're having a go at each other. Team USA very close to the boundary there. Team China well on top of the boundary, according to the graphics on the shore. But Team Japan still going into first place. Team USA copped the penalty, so has Team China from hitting that boundary, but it gets washed off pretty quick when you're going downhill at 40-odd knots, that's for sure. So we're on board now with Team Japan, just going through their final manoeuvre to come into this bottom part of the mark. Shirley.
A beautiful view of a beautiful dive. I mean, such execution and precision. I mean, I guess this team have sailed together a lot. You know, there's three at the back, America's Cups together. They're a slick machine, but goodness, what a masterclass on San Francisco Bay here today.
At this stage, it certainly is showing this fleet how to sail these boats. You only got it, you didn't have much time in Australia. You only got it a couple of days before it. Wasn't happy with some of the setup of the foils and so on and so forth. He said in one of the interviews he reckons his boat's race ready, and there's no doubt about that. He is showing that boat at this stage is the one to beat. For those Great Britain boys, they're not going to let it happen all his own way. They're coming right in towards the boundary, smacking into attack. Australia doing the same thing. Team China, they're way up at this time.
I mean, the prize for the most improved has to go to these guys. And with the technical changes, it means that Dylan Fletcher no longer has to fly his boat all the time. And I think that has given him real confidence just to get stuck into the racing, to look around and to do what he's good at. He's been winning in the Olympic world as well. And I see him looking taller throughout SailGP. Confidence is growing, and we're seeing that in the way he's attacked the racing today.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday he said he'd never done a fleet race before, so he's got a massive a match race. He's had a massive big learning curve in these boats, and for him to be up there like this is awesome. But it's still Team Japan leading this race. Great Britain in second, Australia in third, China coming into fourth, USA fifth, which means the French at this stage are coming in last position. Going to follow Team Australia here in attack, coming way over into the boundary. They want to be careful they don't get a boundary penalty on the uphill, because it gets a little bit more costly than what it does when they're smoking downhill, that's for sure.
Jody, what is Tom Slingsby thinking now?
I would hate to put it over there, because he loves to win, as does every one of these skippers. They all want to win, but he'd be just thinking, why have our dominance from Australia not be transferred into the waters of San Francisco, where they've spent a lot of time. 2 America's Cups he's had here, he's had a lot of time to do what he wants to do on the waters of San Francisco, so he's not foreign to these waters, that's for sure.
They'll be crunching that data tonight.
And you're looking at Team Japan there. Nathan Outridge is fairly cool, calm and collective. He's happy where he's got Great Britain tucked away just to the leeward side of him there. All his so-called rivals on the water are heading in the same direction of him, which is a very comfortable position to be in when you're racing. Just as we say that, Great Britain decide to bail out early and not give him all his own way. You've got to start throwing something at him. They can't just let him just keep going. Someone needs to step up and have a crack at the Team Japan, because at this stage they are just untouchable. Australia going right into the boundary. They're putting a nose in. It's a bit loose coming in, which normally means it should be fairly loose coming out. The people on the shore there that would have just seen that boat, literally about 50 metres off that shore, the crowd in there would have just been thinking, he better turn this thing or we're going to see a lot of carbon fibre coming out our way really quick. But here we are, Team Japan, 28 knots uphill. Nice and comfortable, just balancing. You see the nose of the front of the boat just twitching up and down. They're just keeping that control of the boat right where they want it.
Of course, Dylan Fletcher, sitting beside him adjusting the wing is Chris Draper. He's wing trimmer for SoftBank Team Japan in the last Cup. He knows what he's doing. He's the CEO of the team, and a real sort of calming influence, driving it all forward in a real professional manner, and really teaching these guys how to sail these incredibly fast boats.
The old man of the of the team, that's for sure. They've tacked, so has Japan, and Australia have found themselves in the second position now. still fighting in towards trying to get that Team Japan and Nathan Outridge back from leading this race. It's interesting that Tom Slingsby, and Team Australia attacked early there. They just want to keep following Nathan Outridge, which means that maybe there's a right-hand shift and they're making this lay line very, very easy. And that's being confirmed by that onboard. They're going straight into the middle of the gate. So a big shift like that doesn't really help them being able to come back and catch it, that's for sure.
GBR team went a bit early on that ley line. You can see that reflected in the speed. Australian team much quicker in their approach to this final top mark.
Just under 200 metre lead it is then to Team Japan, but Team Great Britain and Team Australia have to give way to the USA team that are coming uphill here. It's interesting because they were on starboard, so they just didn't want to make any sort of issues and decided that the best course of action there was to go straight up over the top of them.
Look at the Japanese. They have hit that turbo button. They have extra speed downwind. They seem to be able to fly higher, sail lower, and sail faster. And wow, now they're off on their own. And they're burning.
And the thing here is that now Great Britain and Australia are actually racing each other. That could possibly open the gate even more for Team Japan, just to keep going downhill and putting more and more distance on these two boats. Team Australia look very fast on this jibe. They seem to be able to roll straight over the top of Great Britain there, maybe sailing a little bit higher to do so, but have a look where Japan is. They are down the course, way low, and just coming in towards that bottom mark.
Penalty complete.
Getting close to a 300 metre lead.
Well, we were eavesdropping on the British debrief in between races, and they were saying that they felt they had pace upwind on the Australians, but downwind they were vulnerable. And I think we're seeing that. Just Tom Slingsby flying high, got a couple of extra knots.
Very close to the boundary here. They want to be careful. They get a boundary penalty. What they're finding, because this boats are so fast, the one boat length penalty is getting washed off pretty quick, and there's a penalty up for Australia. So the umpires have decided to give them a 2 boat length penalty relative to the other boat, because the skippers are actually using it as an advantage.
Australia, boundary penalty.
Cracking
Australia,
shot there of the city of San Francisco in the background. These two F50s just going through. That penalty's now opened the door. Still got the penalty on. Hasn't been able to wash it off. That's that 2 boat length thing we're talking
Australia,
about.
penalty clear.
You can see when we get the shot from the boat here, you can see how choppy it is. And imagine you're trying to keep as minimum amount of rudder in the water.
When they don't want that rudder to come out, because that's when all the downforce disappears and the boats go tripping over the top of themselves. Team Japan with a very loose bottom mark rounding there. You can see the wash of his arc is very, very low. Some boats are coming in a lot tighter, but when you've got a lead like that, I guess it doesn't really matter how low you are as long as you're fast.
Kept his pace though, Jody, kept his pace all the way around there.
And you can see how much that penalty cost Team Australia. So Great Britain have now taken probably about a 3-4 boat length lead into the second position with Team Australia. It was interesting that the Aussies decided to follow them. Maybe they're just going to back their pace, or Tommy just got Dylan in his sights because of the penalty. And he's almost letting Team Japan just sail off in the distance. On board here with Great Britain going through the tack. He's done a nice job there on the tack as well. Australians tacked out early. But it is still Team Japan on their way uphill with a 198 metre lead to Great Britain. And we are coming towards the mid part of the course. A couple more tacks in and they're going to get up that top mark and maybe have a perfect day.
You know, the British now just defending. Now they're looking behind the Aussies. They've stopped looking at the Japanese, and they're confident on their upwind speed. And you know, straightforward, covering your opposition. You're doing a great job of that, Dylan Fletcher and his British team.
And there's a great shot there of how fast the guys are going. They're on a lower mode, but they're just trying to get over the top of Team Australia. So Team Australia don't have any tactically gains by being in front of them. They can just put the boat in front, then control that position. We've got a bit of an issue here with Team China. We've got a grinder that's fallen off, the bow's gone down, skip up out of the water, bow down in the water again. that gets very, very dangerous and very, very ugly. That is out of control. That is for sure. Team Japan now tacking, setting themselves up for one of the last tacks to get up to this top mark and then smoke into the finish for the final time today. Team Great Britain have done a really nice job in gapping Australia there, Shirley.
They're confident, you know, and they're fast upwind, and they're making very few mistakes. The boat looks smooth too, and very impressive by the British team.
Yeah, there's certainly impressive in this team that we are looking at here now. Looks like he's actually caught him a little bit on the racetrack. Looks like what Nathan Outridge is trying to do is bow down to the front of his boat, bow down to get across to maybe the next ship a little bit quicker, which changes the gauge, so the distance upwind between the two boats. So it looks like Dylan might have been catching him there, but I think Nathan's just trying to get across to the next breeze.
When we've looked at the data in practice, the Japanese seem to have a sort of lower, faster mode upwind, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
Not the most spectacular tack there by our leader. They still need to get that thing up and foiling, and there it is. What a great shot from the cameraman, getting right in there to show this Team Japan boat coming upwind. You can see just missed out on that graphic there, but they're nearly close to that top mark. Dylan Fletcher's just checking out what he can do, but he can do nothing because it's all about Team Japan once again in and around the final mark for the final time with a 130-metre lead. And off they go, 45, 46 knots, something out of control for most people, but these guys are doing it like they are walking in the park. What an absolutely amazing performance by Team Japan. What can you say, Shirley? That is just 3 wins from 3 races. Great Britain into second, but that is an amazing effort by Team Japan.
You know, he was determined after Sydney, Nathan Outridge, to come here and to show his form and to show, you know, what they can do. And I know he was really disappointed then. And wow, what a day, what a performance.
What a performance, he's not wrong.
You know when he's wearing his goggles, Jody, he means business.
Maybe he should have his goggles on all the time because they seem to be working. And obviously the reason he's got his goggles on is because they're spray smoking. Interesting how far back Team Australia were to Great Britain. They're coming in the 3rd spot, but Great Britain did a really, really nice job there of getting back in towards Australia. Team Australia really high. They got a real low soak into this mark.
You know, the fascinating thing about this series is that everyone gets everybody's data, and that's one of the reasons that they've all learned and improved so much. But I can imagine in the Australian camp tonight, they'll be crunching the numbers. They need some answers.
I just heard some onboard comms there with Tom Slingsby as you were talking there, Shirley, and it was a very, very dejected Tommy Slingsby going, "Sorry, boys." And you know when he's sorry, he gets cranky. So they, like you said, they'll be going back. They won't want this team in Team Japan and Nathan Outridge to make a clean sweep like Australia did in Sydney, that's for sure. We're just here watching Team Japan going through their after-race little setups. The boys will be starting to pack the boat up and are looking very, very confident. Nathan Outridge, have you got us? This is Jody and Shirley in the commentary position. We don't have him, so we're just going to... Shirley, what do you reckon? 3 races, and we have seen an absolutely dominant performance by Japan. We've seen France and China. They're not haven't been bothered the podium at all for the first 3 races.
You know, I spoke to Nathan this morning. He called us up for a bit of a chat, and he just seemed so relaxed and so confident. And he said, the harder it gets out here, the better we are going to go. And wow, we saw that confidence shine through. They were just so slick.
Well, there you go. That's right.
Where are we going to next?
We have had 3 races, 3 wins by Team Japan. What can tomorrow bring? I can't wait. Thank you very much. That has been amazing.
The helmets knocked up.
So Nathan Outridge makes it 3 from 3 in some very tricky conditions. Charlie, how difficult was what Nathan Outridge did today? Because he made it look simple, but it was far from easy.
Well, that many times around the track in those conditions, you would just expect a slip up that's going to somewhere along the way let someone through. So it's a pretty strong message to the rest that as the conditions get harder, he's the king.
He was so patient with Dylan Fletcher, wasn't he? He didn't seem to be rushing. He was just gently applying the pressure on that stern of Dylan Fletcher and letting him know that he was there.
And he's still got that little bit of speed advantage, especially downwind. And that just keeps the pressure ratcheting up.
Well, the one thing to take from that race, I suppose, when we're looking at the bigger picture, is that Dylan Fletcher has finally managed to break that lockout that Australia and Japan have had on the top 2 places.
Look, we have to start this by recognizing that the Japanese team just dominated the day. But the standout performance from who came here to show that they're going to compete, that was a fantastic performance today by GBR. It really was.
And let's not forget as well, Team USA. They were in 6th place at the beginning of this, and they've hauled themselves up right through the rankings into 4th. Ron Kirby, in challenging conditions, has really got that boat flying.
They've come together, they've shown that they can sail the boat in strong winds, they can get around the track. They've made some good decisions today, but really you have to look, coming away from Sydney, there was 2 teams clearly dominant, and now GBR shown there's a 3rd team right in the mix right now.
If we want to get stuck into a little bit of detail as well here, and this is worth talking about, there have been a couple of minor adjustments to the boats between Sydney and San Francisco. One of those is that you've now got a flight controller with a different mechanism to control the flight, rather than the skipper using the wheel, except on Team USA, where Ron Kirby has maintained control of that wing, which it leaves a lot of responsibility with him, doesn't it?
It is, but on that young team, he does have the most experience. He's the one who he feels what's about to happen, and all the skippers are using their, twist grips to do it, but the other teams are turning over more flight control to the forward guy.
Okay, it's been a scintillating day of racing, and now that they've caught their breath a little bit, we can have a chat with Shirley Robertson and Jodie Shields, who were in the commentary booth. Both of you, there was a lot of expectation on today, but it delivered in some style, didn't it?
Oh, it was so fast, wasn't it? And so close. And apart from the Japanese, lots of lead changing. But, all these teams, they learn really quickly. And I think tomorrow we may well see some of the teams challenging Japan. Lots to learn, and some amazing sailing here in San Francisco Bay.
The States.
Yeah. What a day of racing here in San Francisco Bay, and what a leader. 3 wins out of 3. Team Japan helm Nathan Outridge. Well, they'll be celebrating this evening, but pushing hard behind them
The British team much improved from the last event in Sydney. And in third, the winner in Sydney, but in third, trailing, is Tom Slingsby and his Australian team. Behind them, the USA, China, and France.
Well, the most telling part of that, Charlie, that we've got to talk about, the third and final race there gives Nathan Outridge the lead in the overall championship points. And if Tom Slingsby wasn't frustrated before that race, he will be now, because he's just ceded the lead in the championship to the Japanese.
That has to be very disappointing for the Australians. They came in here with a pretty comprehensive victory from Sydney, and it's not that they're sailing badly, it's just that you sailing pretty well just is not enough in this.
Not in the face of Nathan Outridge. 3 races from 3. Let's start at the beginning of this third race. Another incredible start in the Japanese boat.
Yeah, the thing that he's focused on here is wherever he is on the line, he's determined to have more speed. So that puts more pressure on his getting the time and distance right from a further distance away. But like you said, he's 3 for 3 on that today, and it looks like, look, he's barely has clear wind. They might be over the top of him, but he's going just that little bit faster, and he ekes his way through
An
to be in a
incredible
good
pincer
position.
movement as well on Japan there. We saw Phil Robertson just getting dumped by GB and Japan as they closed the door.
I mean, at these speeds that the boats are this close, there's going to be winners and losers. And when you're a loser, when you get rolled there, you lose your wind, you fall off the foils, it's disastrous.
Well, as much as his technique, Nathan Outridge has proved that he's got nerves of steel today.
Well, that's no surprise. He's the cagey veteran of this group. And he showed that in the tight spots, he will just keep the pressure on.
Well, the big story of today, I think, we've seen Nathan Outridge lead from the front, but Team GB have been knocking on the door all 3 races. They've succumbed to the pressure and fallen off the pace and let Australia and Japan through in the first 2 races. So the challenge here for Dylan Fletcher was to hold off Tom Slingsby and claim one of these top 2 spots, wasn't it?
So the first race, they were in command. They had a big mistake. Second race, they're in a pretty good spot. They can't quite hold on. Here they go, race 3, and they had to be feeling the pressure here. Can we hold off the series leader who's hunting us down from behind? And they did such a good job of that.
Yeah, that penalty that Tom Slingsby incurred on the perimeter of the racing area, that cost him 2 boat lengths, and that allowed Britain to stretch out this lead on the upwind leg. And the Japanese boat, it seems impossible to catch. Once Outridge is out in front, that's the race done so far.
There's always the time where you're doing the risk reward. It's so hard to do the risk reward when you're going those kind of speeds, but Shirley nailed it exactly right. At some point in that last upwind leg, the GBR did the risk reward and said, we're not going to catch Nathan unless he makes a big mistake. Let's focus on staying ahead of Slingsby and the Australians. And even after that boundary penalty, the Australians were right behind putting the pressure on. They had to make, after that penalty happened, they had to make a jibe, they had to make 3 tacks, and they had to keep it on the foils, every one of those. And the Brits went 4 for 4 on those maneuvers. And, you know, that's got to be a confidence boost for them.
Yeah, a massive, massive improvement for the British there. They've broken that stronghold of the Australians and the Japanese on the top 2 spots, and it's all going to be to play for tomorrow. Will they fly high, fast and loose, or will they play it conservatively, keep it low and a little more steady? Certainly the wind is forecast to get up a little bit. This is the schedule for tomorrow's racing. 2 fleet races with all 6 boats on the water, and then at 1:33 tomorrow afternoon we'll have the match race. The 2 best boats, the 2 highest boats on the championship leaderboard will be going head-to-head in that match race. Promises to be a mouth-watering prospect, Charlie.
There's one thing that we can say with absolute certainty here in San Francisco, we're going to have plenty of action tomorrow.
Okay, it's time to say goodbye after a very dramatic day of racing here in San Francisco. We'll see you tomorrow. Once again, with SailGP.
6 boats out there, it's pretty full.
Okay, fine.
What an absolutely amazing performance by Team Japan.